The European Council President is one of the EU's longest-standing backers of a second Brexit referendum and still hangs on to hope of being able to influence another vote. According to Brussels sources, Mr Tusk may use the upcoming European Council summit in order to push his Remainer agenda. The 61-year-old former Polish Prime Minister will chair what is expected to be a 4-hour debate amongst EU 27 leaders on the length of any Article 50 extension offered to Theresa May. On Thursday, MPs voted by 413 to 202 in favour of delaying Brexit at least 3 months in order to give the Mrs May more time to secure support for her draft EU withdrawal agreement. Mrs May has said she will seek to restrict any Brexit delay until June 30, but Mr Tusk will look to push leaders into accepting a far more gruelling extension to the EU's Article 50 exit clause. Last week, he said, during my consultations ahead of the EU leaders' summit next week, I will appeal to the EU 27 to be open to a long extension if the UK finds it necessary to rethink its Brexit strategy and build a consensus around it. Mr Tusk is said to be one of the last supporters of a second Brexit referendum in Brussels circles, according to one source. Donald Tusk will chair the EU 27 on Theresa May's Brexit delay. Image Getty. A second insider said leaders were hoping for a spontaneous discussion on the potential Brexit delay, but that Mr Tusk could seek to influence that to push his own agenda. Mr Tusk's efforts to push Britain's EU divorce back are seen by some as an attempt to threaten Brexiteers into supporting Mrs May's withdrawal deal. The Prime Minister is expected to hold her third meaningful vote on the agreement next week before heading to Brussels to discuss an Article 50 extension. She could then hold a fourth Commons vote after EU leaders have agreed to delay Brexit, using the potential leverage of a long extension in her favour. Last night, EU 27 ambassadors decided that Brussels would terminate any extension to the UK's EU membership if elections for British MEPs haven't been held by July 1. A legal document shared amongst the senior diplomats and seen by express.co.uk says no extension should be granted beyond July 1 unless the European Parliament elections are held at the mandatory date. The European elections are scheduled for May 22 to 26 in order for MEPs to take the seats in the new-look EU Parliament in early July. The Room document says the European Council of Leaders can't allow the EU is paralysed by the consequences of an extension. All acts of the Union that would be adopted with the participation of an irregularly composed Parliament would be open to legal challenge on this ground, which would put security of legal relations in the Union serious at risk, on a very large scale.